Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I am moving on to Act 2 of How to Write a Cozy Mystery using dictation to finish it in 3 hours. So let's just get started. Act 2 has 4 segments as well. So we have the investigation, the motive and secrets, the B story, as well as the midpoint. So that's kind of the structure of how Act 2 goes. And I'm going to break it down a little bit more and we will move on. So after the sleuth decides to commit, right? She or he, mostly I feel like they're always female sleuths in cozy mysteries. They are committing to being a part of this investigation. So what basically in this first beat happens is the investigation begins. So this is where all of the other characters that are part of the sleuths friend group, all join together and be like, okay, we are here to help you out in any way we can. And then the clues of the murder or any other type of crime start to unfold. So right now I am working on a Easter cozy as part of my seasonal sweet series, and I just finished writing the investigation part, and I'm gonna read you what I have written in my notes here. So in this investigation one, so I have Lily looks at her phone, then at Emma, mentions it's been hours and no one's been around. Emma wants to know why. It turned color. You might be wondering what that's about in this story. So people's tongue are turning blue. So that's kind of a little snippet of what's actually happening. And then upon sampling, Emma looks and notices nothing. Why was Regina's after eating the sample confused, going to talk to other vendors and see if they could figure it out. So that is kind of just my notes of what I want to happen within this beat. So we have Lily. She is like, okay, no one's coming to our things. Why is that? Sampling the chocolates and realizing, oh, it's wasn't the samples, right? So why did Regina's tongue turn color, right? And then being like, okay, I'm going to be fully into this investigation, and what I'm going to do is go talk to other vendors. So that is in the investigation segment. Moving on to the motive and suspects. So going to my cheat sheet of I have the what needs to happen earlier, but I didn't write it for each section. So this is where the motives will be revealed of the suspects. So the suspects start popping up. The characters confide in the sleuth, and then any additional information. So this is where, red herrings, clues all come into play. So this is, right, like the fun part of this story. So I would say a lot of fun plotting happens in this. And what I have here in this story, so basically what Emma needs to know is who the vendors are. Did they have a similar situation? And then finds out kind of which booths Regina was at, right? Because it's like, okay, is there any correlation that she went to these ones but not these ones, right? And then also then it slowly moves into the B story, which is essentially a subplot. And I'm not the biggest fan of how beat sheets normally have subplots. And right, I'm still working on the structure that works for me, and I normally just throw the B story in the whole motive and secrets section. So, right, the subplot, we have Bryce and Emma. they don't fully have a romance like Detective Kennedy and Lily, or Detective Perez and Millie in the Sticker Shop series. So it's like the romance is there, but it's not really. This one, I didn't want it to be a forefront because there are people that don't like how cozies have the romance element, but others love it. So I wanted to have it, but not be the main character's kind of story. But basically, then I have like a scene with Emma and Bryce kind of talking. It's like comforting her and be like, it's going to be okay. And then something big happens in this scene. I don't want to kind of spoil it, so you're going to have to read the book when it comes out, and it will be coming out either the end of January or early February for, not February, March. The end of February, the beginning of March for the Easter season. And then we're moving on to the midpoint. So the midpoint is, everyone kind of does, I feel like, I didn't mention what the B story is. So the B story is also like the premise. So it's a secondary plot point. It's linked to the sleuth's background revealed or ramp ups the conflict. So that's why there's a little something at the end of that scene that kind of gets the conflict going a little bit. So the midpoint is, they're different types of midpoints, I feel like. That there's the one where they're looking in the mirror, right? They're doing their self-reflection. Because the midpoint is where, on the character arc, they start realizing, okay, I need to change my life, and I want it to be now this way. So going after the truth versus the lie in their characters. So it's something unexpected happens, another murder could happen, or any other major developments. And romances, this is kind of the point where like their romance kind of heats up a little bit. And in this one, I am throwing in another mystery element. So something happens that kind of, okay, now we have this bigger situation. Now, not just the vendors, their food items were targeted and they got some weird color changing tongue happening. Now this other thing is happening and it's kind of ramping up the story. And that is the end of Act 2. Moves on to Act 3 and then moving on to Act 4. So I do a 4-act structure, but you could think of 2 and 3 as one large one, and you have like the midpoint is the separator, however you may think of it, but that is what we have for Act 2. Now with everything kind of plotted out, we got Act 1 done, we got Act 2. We even talked about kind of the pre-stuff of making sure like your genre is good, the premise, all that information, making sure it's plotted out, because when you hit the ground running on dictation, it is very important to know exactly where you're going. And so having all this information up front, like it's a lot, but it really helps because you could be looking at it, picturing the scene happen in your mind, and then speaking to the microphone. It really helps. And what I've actually been realizing is that I did dictation for my short romances as well. And moving back from romance to mysteries was kind of a struggle, and I'm thinking I'm finally kind of getting back into the groove of it. But sitting in one place versus moving. So I might do a separate video, or it will be part of whenever I put that masterclass of like dictation for novel writing, short stories, all that stuff. Once I get that kind of situated, I do want to do a test of how different it is speaking while sitting, right? Or speaking to your phone versus out walking. how that plays into factor, because I'm realizing that my speeds, I think, are a little slower when I am just sitting at my desk and speaking. And I don't know if that's just because I am not in the flow or it's just the story. So it could be either. So I'll have to do a little bit of experimentation. But what to do after Act 2 is make sure you get Act 3 plotted and Act 4. And then it comes down to how you want to separate your story into the sections. Each beat be a chapter or however you may have it, because these are short stories. They're in the short read category on Amazon. I am doing essentially a beat a chapter. It just kind of helps it. So they are 10 to 14 chapters, give or take. And they move pretty quickly. So that's a little different about when you're doing short stories. But I hope that kind of helps on what happens in Act 2 for Cozy Mysteries. And then we'll be moving on to Act 3 and 4. And then getting into the scene by scenes, making sure you have that all mapped out so then you could start dictating right away. So until my next video, bye guys.